This video is to explain the renewal process for Carmel Partners. Our renewal policy is that renewal parameters are decided on a monthly basis in a meeting consisting of the regional manager, the revenue manager, and the asset manager. Once these parameters are determined, revenue management will notify the community manager that renewals for the corresponding month are ready to be run. We have a training document that goes along with this video that lists these renewal steps out with screenshots. The first step is to wait for an email from revenue management stating that your renewals are ready to be run. This email will be sent out each month. Once you receive this email, you may advance to step 2. Step 2 is to reset your renewal worksheet in MRI. So I have MRI open. I'm going to pull up the renewal worksheet under Residents, Renewals, Renewal Worksheet. So even if your renewal worksheet is blank, it's always a great idea to reset it. Most of the time we get errors, it's because the person running renewals did not reset the worksheet before. So it's just a good process. We'll say OK here. Step 2, let's go ahead and run our renewals. We're going to put in the corresponding date and month, so month and year. And then you're going to want to check the box that says include residents on notice to vacate. And then you can load. Usually takes a couple minutes for the renewals to pop up. And then here are your renewals for the month of May in 2014. So step 4, once you've done this, is to send a list of the short terms to revenue management for adjustment. Please include both the resident name and the unit ID. That helps us locate them quickly. So in this list, it looks like we've got a 2-month lease, and it's a corporate one, so we will put that on the email. And then we have a 6-month lease, and that is for Margaret Wallace, so she would go on the email too. The reason is the MRI worksheet doesn't quite calculate the short-term renewals correctly, so revenue management will adjust those for you. Once you hear back from revenue management that your short terms have been adjusted, you can move on to step 6. That is to print any reports that you are needed. Just note that these will not be available after you commit the worksheet, so if you need any reports, you want to go ahead and do that now. Step 7, print letters and review. The letters can be printed by hitting the letters button. Now I believe for Colorado you'd use the Colorado LRO NWP letter, and California is going to use LRO NWP letter. View has their separate letter, which is not shown on the test database since we just made it. So just check with your trainer if you're unsure of which letter to use for your region. Once the letters have been printed, go ahead and review those. If you're the community manager, please review those yourself. If you are running these and you are not the community manager, please have them review them. And just make sure that nothing looks funny or off. Occasionally we'll get errors in MRI, or there might have been a data entry error, so you just want to review those before you send them out and before you commit the worksheet. So if you review those letters and everything looks good, then you will want to commit the worksheet. So one caveat to this is that once you commit the worksheet, you will not be able to reprint the letters from the worksheet after this step. So you really do want to make sure that everything's been adjusted here. If you accidentally commit and you haven't reprinted the letters, you're going to have to go in through every single one of these resident screens and reprint from there. So it's going to be a lot of extra work for you. So just double check that you have those letters and they've printed correctly. Once you're sure that everything looks good and you have the letters, you can go ahead and commit your worksheet. You do that by pressing the commit. It'll give you another pop-up box just warning you of what I did, and you can set OK. Once you are done with that, you're going to want to take your reports that you printed and the letters and fill out what we have here, which is your renewal tracker. So this is the Excel spreadsheet that Asset Management has made. It's saved on the N drive, and we have a tab for each month. And this is where you record the renewals that you sent out as well as the status of them and any notes. One thing I'd like to remark on here, this property doesn't have all of the information filled out. So they don't have the term that was offered here. So you want to make sure that you do fill out all fields. If they do change and accept a different term, you can put that in the notes with the renewal rate, but the renewal offer here should coincide with the term that that offer is for. And then please fill out whether they are renewed, pending, or have given notice by using the drop-down menu that appears here. Once you do that, you'll see that this field should calculate. This field should calculate. So you can see a quick summary of how many you still have outstanding, how many have given notice, and what your renewal percentage looks like. That is basically the renewal process for Carmel Partners, but we do have a few special circumstances that are worth noting. In MRI, you notice when we ran the worksheet, we did not check the box to include month-to-month leases. Month-to-month leases are handled a little bit differently. We don't want someone to move in and then immediately send them a renewal offer. So our policy for Carmel Partners is that month-to-month leases are sent a new offer quarterly. So you're going to need to keep track of the month-to-month leases and when they received their last letter, and make sure that every 3 months you're sending a new letter. These do not need to be adjusted by revenue management. You can just run them in MRI, ensure that their month-to-month rate is not going down from what they are currently paying, and as long as that is not true, you can just send out the letter. The other special circumstance is employee leases. So employee leases are always handled separately. The renewal time for all employee leases is in December. So employee leases are month to month, and then they all receive an email in December. So you never want to be sending out a renewal during the year to an employee. Please follow the process in the steps that I have outlined here. Like I said, there is an accompanying training document. And please note that if you run these renewals before you get notification from revenue management, you will not have the correct parameter set. So it's very important that you do not run these early. After every month, I have at least one person resetting the worksheet after step 5, which is when revenue management adjusts the short term. And that cancels out any changes we've made, so we have to readjust the short terms. Please do not be the one that does this. And if someone else other than the community manager is running the renewals, it is the community manager's responsibility to communicate the information in this video and in the training document. If the community manager has any concerns with the renewal offers that are being sent out, it is their responsibility to review them and bring anything that seems off or concerning to the attention of their regional manager. Thank you for listening.
Okay, today we're going to go over how to update comps in LRO. There's a few things we need to remember. When we're updating comps, we want to make sure that we're doing this every week by the end of the day on Mondays. So let's get started. When you log into LRO, you'll click on the property, and typically it'll take you to your home page. From there, we'll go over to the Competitors tab and we'll click on Comp Rents. To the left of the screen, you'll see each one of your comps. If you have updated your comps every week, as you're supposed to, then these bars will always be green. Okay? So we'll click on the comp, and then we'll be able to see which floor plan we need to enter information for. Here I can see that my 1-bedrooms are mapped to the 780 square foot floor plan at Avalon Brandon Moore. We can click on the history to see what rents have been entered over the past several weeks. If you do see a large discrepancy in the rents from week to week, I encourage you to go online and verify that you are getting the correct rent for the correct floor plan. If you have information for the week, such as visits per week, leases per week, or occupancy, you can enter that information here. Okay. Once we've verified that we do have the correct market rent and concessions for the correct floor plans, we will click New. You will type in the starting price for that floor plan. If they have a concession, we want to type in the entire concession amount for that floor plan. So if they are giving away a month free, we would type in $11.25, and LRO will prorate that rent for us. If there is no concession off of rent, then we wouldn't type anything into the concession field. Okay. Once that's complete, you will click Save Competitor Data, and you will see the new rent in your history box. You would do that for each one of your floor plans, making sure that you look at the floor plan that we need to gather rents for, and making sure that you click Save Competitor Data each time, or those rents will not be saved. Once you have done that for each one of your comps, you can go to the Competitors tab and click Comp Summary. This will show you all the floor plans for each unit type. It'll show you the square footage of that floor plan, the occupancy if that information has been gathered and entered in to your comp rent screen, the weights we have associated with that floor plan, the market rent you just entered, here any concessions that you entered. We can see the net effective rent. It also shows us the average amenity and position that we have associated for that floor plan, giving us the adjusted effective rent. The weights we have in the system get applied to that adjusted effective rent, and that gives us our market composite. It's extremely important that we update comps every week, that we're using the same floor plan, and that we're entering any concessions into the system. This market composite is going to form the baseline for your pricing. If for some reason a floor plan is not available on a certain week, then we want to enter the same amount as the week before, and you will still continue to save your competitor data. On the Competitor tab, we can also look at what our comp positions are. If we see that a comp is starting to update, or if their rents have varied greatly during a week, then I would encourage you to look at your comp positions and make sure that those still make sense. So for the 1-bedroom at Avalon, I can see that my position statement is negative $105. What that means is that I should typically be pricing my units $105 below their units. For the Orchard, I can see that I have a positive $30 in there. And what that means is that my floor plan should be priced typically $30 above theirs. If you see anything that has changed with your comps, such as renovations, or if they've started to add something else into their rent, it is important that you email revenue management and let us know so that we can make the appropriate adjustments. Let's look at your pricing trend to see how that correlates to your pricing. Okay, so for the 1-bedrooms, I can see this green line, and over in the legend it shows me that the market composite is that green line. LRO is going to use the information you put in on a weekly basis to help form the baseline of our pricing. And we can see that our reference rent never goes below that market composite. Let's look at Lassie. So if you have any leases that were leased for a price different from what LRO recommended, you can log on to the intranet Okay, if you have any leases that were leased for a price other than what LRO recommended, you can log on to the intranet look under the Revenue tab, click on Lassie, and all the leases over the last 7 days will show up. We need to look at this on a weekly basis to make sure we don't have any units that are flagged red. Here I can see there's one unit that is red. If I hover over the unit ID, I can see what the offered base rent was according to LRO and what the signed base rent was. If those are different and you see that the offered rent and signed rent are red in Lassie, you need to click on Edit over to the right hand side, and a drop down will appear. In that drop down, we need to pick why there was a variance in the price. It could be that it was a 24-hour hold and the unit was on reserve. You can click 24-hour price guarantee. It may be that it was a customer service price adjustment. In that case, we would pick customer service price adjustment. Whatever the reason is, we need to fill this out every week for any leases that are not compliant with LRO. Once you've picked the reason, you can click Update, and I will see that on my end. If you have any questions about updating comps or updating Lassie, you can always contact your revenue manager.